Now, is there anyone who's brave enough to kick us off? Jeanette.
Nice of you to remember my name, thanks, Ross. So it's just an open question, I'm not sure who I should ask. What would the chances be? Training is my biggest challenge. There is such a small margin that I make on my business anyway. When I've got I run a domestic cleaning business, so anybody who trains, they train at client's house who cap what they're paying. The trainer gets paid more and the trainee gets paid the standard wage, so that means my margin is even less. What are the chances that I could apply for some kind of grant to help me pay for the trainees go through their training to alleviate the stress? Does that make sense? Or, yeah.
We'll see just how much sense it makes. Who's going to jump on that one?
I could probably do that.
Thank you, Louisa.
Point of view. So there is things that are available that aren't attached to work. So there is fee-free TAFE, and there is qualifications sitting on there that someone may be able to access. There's also another program called the C3G program, and Cert 3 in cleaning is actually sitting on that.
Yeah, sorry, I was just, my experience with other cleaners, if we do it right, we train people
Yep.
right, other cleaning trainers do a terrible job.
Yeah. So with that program, they can still go to work. Yeah, so when they can still go to work and learn from you, but they also will get a formal qualification. And so it's not attached to employment in the same way a traineeship is, so it's attached to the individual. And, you know, I can probably send you some information about that. But there is options out there for most industries that you're able to skill your workforce through government funding. So that's not fully funded. There is a student fee that comes with that, which is not very much, I have to say. If you're willing to actually help your workforce pay for that, I think it's a great way to keep your staff skilled, engaged, and you still get them on the workforce doing exactly how you want it to be done.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No.
Good, thank you, Louisa. Any more questions from the floor? Don't be shy, I don't bite. They don't believe me. Sarah!
I think this is for Lorna, just quite a general question. What is the most common, frequent IR pitfall that employers fall into, and any advice how to avoid it?
I'd probably say that people are not aware of what their payroll system's doing. That's a huge one, and they're trying their very best to pay their staff. I mean, the awards are not easy to interpret, but they're trying their very best to pay their staff. They think they've done everything right, and then they turn around and realise that their payroll system's not paying them correctly, or they haven't set it up correctly, or they're actually not aware of what their payroll system's doing at all. And then they find that they may have underpaid staff. So that is not only probably the one that I get the most questions on in terms of what should I be paying my staff, or how do I even process that in a payroll system, but it is also probably one of the most scary ones, because now there's not only a civil liability offence but a criminal liability offence if you do underpay your staff. So obviously that's for intentional underpayment, but it is quite a serious contravention. So that's probably the biggest one. So my advice would be to get extremely cosy with your payroll system and learn about what it does, what it's doing, and if there's something you don't understand in there, go back to your payroll provider, or go back to your BAS agent or your accountant or whoever, or your payroll officer, hopefully, whoever's running your payroll, and ask them, what does this do and what does it mean, and where have you got this information from, so you understand thoroughly how you are paying someone. Yeah.
Yep. Over to Des.
Yep, and just thanks, Lorna. Just adding to what Lorna said about paying people correctly, also checking, and Lorna would agree, allowances. That's an area where I find a lot of people miss. What first aid allowance, clothing allowance, laundry allowance. In your reward, you need to make sure that you're covering off on those as well as paying them correctly. That's where you need the advice to check, is it applicable, should I be paying it? Because you can get picked up on that as well. So just another area to check.
Thank you, Des. Any other further questions? Yes. This is dangerous and I'm about to end up on this tripod.
Okay, so I'm not entirely sure how to word it, but if you've got to currently have a casual who, I suppose, has set hours that you've said, or days that you've said, right, your days are Monday, Tuesday, for instance, but if they're not necessarily needed due to lack of clients or whatever, and you said, look, don't come in till 10 o'clock, finish at 5 today, that's your last client. When does that whole casual thing of consistent hours and things like that start kicking in when you say going and moving into a consistent hours to go into part-time? Does that make sense? Yeah?
So at what point?
Yeah.
At what point is it regular and systematic?
Yeah, if you have to sometimes say, oh, look, don't come in, but these
Yeah.
are your days, or could you switch?
Yeah, that's an extremely interesting question, and I do think it's very scenario based. So let's just talk about that very specific scenario. I think that what I would be doing is looking over the last 12 months and what they've done, or even the last 6 months and what they've done, and assess whether have they actually been coming in consistently on Tuesday and Thursday. And yes, I may have asked them not to come in for a period, but how long was that period? When was that period? What was the expectation? What kind of conversation were you having with them? So it is hard to determine what is regular and systematic, but you do need to look at it more broadly and go, over the last 6 months, have they been coming in regularly? And I can't say it's, they've been working 15 hours and it has to do this or it has to do that. It's extremely scenario based, yeah. But I would say to just go and have a look at the hours they've done over the last 6 months to 12 months and say, how regular and systematic was it?
Anyone else going to make me get my cardio in? Yes, Thomas.
I'm just here, not you. I wanted to ask a question, maybe more so on the recruitment side of things, but for younger people going into their first maybe proper job, do you guys have any hints or tips for employees on employing young people who are going into their first proper job? Sorry, like breaking down the maybe negative stigmas or the barriers for young people.
Crikey, who's happy to tackle that one?
I'll start. This might take over. I would say for a young employer going into the workforce to their very first job, to work out what they're passionate about, what do they want to do when they get into that job, even if it's their first job at McDonald's, love that job, and hope that they will have a boss that's actually going to give them that mentorship to be passionate about their next job. Don't walk into that job and think, ugh, it's just a job, because it's never going to just be a job. It's going to be the first step to many things.
Yeah, good question, Tom. And I think, I'm biased here because of my involvement with lifesaving, but making sure you put down any community work that you're doing, or if whatever activities you are contributing to the community, any work experience you've done, just being clear about, because you do learn a lot of skills in volunteering, as we all know, that contribute towards the workplace. So looking at that, but yeah, mental blank for a minute. Sharon said, so many names in here today. Yeah, figure out what you're passionate about. If it's working in a supermarket, or it's, there was a joke once about the toll collector, Tom, where the toll collector on the old tolls had more cars lining up at their toll than anyone else did in the morning. And that's because there was an experience at that toll. I go to my local coffee shop way too much, according to my wife, but I don't go in there every morning just for coffee. It's the vibe, it's the environment. You want to contribute to that workplace, make a good impression, mate, and start your career. You know, like I said, I started in retail, and it was great grounding for me, just learning to progress. I don't know if we've answered your question, but use your passion.
Can I add to that?
Yep.
I also think it's very important for young people that are wanting to get into their passion career, which can be very difficult when they're young. We all have had those jobs that we didn't like but had to do them. Is make sure you have a LinkedIn profile to highlight what we were just talking about, and lock up your Facebook profile, because we all know personal lives for young people is exciting and fun, but from an employer's point of view, they do a deep dive into you and have a look at all your activities and things like that. And I know that feels like a bit of an invasion of privacy, but let's face it, they do it. Just, keep your public profile highlighted with all the fantastic stuff that you're doing. Get involved with the community. And highlight everything. Take free speaking gigs if you're up for that. But all those things just highlight how wonderful you are as a person.
I'm speaking from an employer point of view, and me and Kate probably have had several conversations around the young people, as yourself and Grace as well. For us, we took on our first young person. She's 20. And I remember one of our chamber people from Splash Zone at that time had reached out and said, look, I've got this young girl. She's worked in childcare. She hates it, but she's a young mum. She's looking for 12 hours a week on paper to come into a real estate agent. If I didn't have that contact, you'd probably look at it and go, no, that's going to be too hard. You're going to forethink all of these issues that may happen. And I think as business owners, we all do that, try and sort problems, and we try to look for these skills that should be there. So when we took the plunge, because it was only 12 hours she was looking for, and we said it was the most boring job on earth, I will give you to do phone calls to ring people that will probably abuse you. Do you want that? And she sat there and said, I'll give anything a go. And with that honesty with this person sitting in front of me, I thought, what's the worst that can happen? She was so desperate to get away from such a toxic culture and have an opportunity that 6 months on, she's completed her full registration and certificate in real estate that we've provided for her. She's the first one to put her hand up every weekend to say, can I come with you to an open home to learn? What else can I do? And she is excited to come to work. For that, and I looked at it from a different perspective, because I did hire a mature age person that didn't last long with us. They'd come from a long story for that one, but they hadn't ingrained bad skills already, so a young person can bring that. Another idea is exactly what you're doing for the RJC now. You started doing some social media. Sell to the business the strengths that you can bring that us old people, I can only speak for myself, are too old. I'm asking my 14-year-old, how does this work? You can bring such value to a business that we don't have. So when you're going for that job, sell to them what you think that they might not be able to do, where you can add value, that you are able to be trained, and that you are amazing people, because I would not trade my staff member for anything.
There you go. Can't get much stronger response than that. Any more groundbreaking questions? No? I have got one for Eleanor. You thought you got away. Don't worry, I was counting. Eleanor, you shared the video with Tubi Fun and the result of them taking part in the advisor program. What I was wondering is that sort of a pilot service where you have a designated period of time and then sort of that's the end of the support, or does it feed into a more long-term support model, into other services? Where does it go once you get to the point where Tubi Fun is at?
So as I often joke with people, you can be stuck with us as much or as little as you like, and each business will need something different. So in the case of Tubi Fun, they've grown, they've hired their staff, they've gone through a fair work issue, they're kind of just happy on their own right now. They've even stopped their business coach for a little while. You know, they feel like they've ticked a few boxes. So for a lot of businesses that have engaged already, the program's for 3 years. So we're about halfway through. And it's, in my case, the way I've approached the strategy is it's loop back time. So often a lot of them applied for the grant, went through that process, got that HR support, and at that point, you've only got so many hours in the day. You don't need me then on top of that going, oh, and what about, and look at this, and sending you 56 million links to things. We run through it now. So a lot of my businesses that have gone through the funding, have ticked those boxes, we're now looping back going, okay, so how did you find it? What have you still got on the table that you're missing? You know, can we now look at the free TAFE scenario? Can we now look at those business planning courses to upskill? Or are you now moving those staff through those processes and you've created that junior position? So it is a relationship, but it's really up to the business how much they want out of it and how much we can help, because I'm also a bit of a mixed bag, expert of none, very special as you can probably tell, but because I'm business, financial services, property services, ICT and anything that doesn't go anywhere else sometimes, it means that I've got to go find a friend, because I'll speak to a canoe manufacturer in the afternoon and then the next morning it might be a finance broker. So very different needs, very different industries, but definitely relationship focused. Yep, Kate.
Sorry, Ross. I was just going to ask a question. Sorry, my brother. Yes. Eleanor, in terms of you mentioned the grant. Can you just explain a little bit more how a business applies for it, and is it that they then have that bucket of funding to employ their own of choice HR consultant, et cetera, et cetera?
So we were blessed with a HR Connect grant for the small business who was eligible to be able to apply to engage with a HR provider of their choice on a eligible HR need. So we would still go through the same sort of process of engagement. So we would still run through the Jobs Queensland toolkit, put them in connection holistically with other things, but at the same time, mainly my strategy so that I wasn't wasting time, because the grant was exhausted, then it's back on the table, and now we've been told if it's a critical need that we're up until the 30th of June for you to apply. So if you tick the eligibility criteria, then we can work through that, but at the same time it's the same process regardless of whether you're eligible for the grant or not, so that way you're not wasting your time. But the funding, if you're approved, goes straight to a HR consultant for you to work on those pain points. So what I've seen a lot over the last probably 12, 18 months has been around all of the IR stuff in regards to policies, procedures, contracts. Onboarding is a big one. So KPI chats, toolbox chats, really getting that culture in place. And then once all those foundational items are ticked off, that's when they'll come back and go, oh, okay, you know, now we're really looking at how to recreate those position descriptions, how to get the language right to attract whether it's the mature age or the young people, or, you know, diversify their business into other things. But a lot of what I'm seeing in my sector is very much that foundation, which is where a lot of the funding's gone, which is what Stacey used as Chibi Fun as well to launch all of that.
Very good. Last call for questions, straight off the bat.
Thank you to all of you. It's been wonderful today. Thank you very much. I guess I'm an old-hearted HR person too, so I can relate to each one of you, different topics. And I'm just sitting here thinking, well, okay, what sort of question can I ask you? Being an older person now, don't know how the hell I got here, but I am. And I've heard you talk to, you just, for the first time today, you mentioned mature employees. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that is happening that is encouraging older people? You know, like I've worked in HR for 35 years. I have and my brain is still very, very good, I can tell you. I'd like to use it. Is there anything, and I'm sure that there are thousands of other people out there who are older, who can bring so much knowledge to the businesses that are in this room and to the services that you provide. Is there anything that is positively happening? I haven't heard of anything that is allowing mature people to actually come and support businesses and help them to survive and evolve. That's my question.
Before you go to the panel? Thank you for that. I think that is a fabulous idea that we can take away from today and look at something local, because we know that the Redlands community has a very high proportion of older community living here, often very highly skilled, educated, have done a lot in their lives, but may not want to work 5 days a week. They might want to get involved in maybe 2 days a week or 3 half days or something creative like that. And potentially if we can create something that's effectively a way to connect the people in our region who have that skill set with businesses, maybe it's like a Facebook page where people can list, this is who I am, this is what I've done in my life. If you're interested, let's chat further. Something very simple that allows for that connection point might be a really great outcome of today. But I'd just love to hear what particularly the business community think of. Would that be something that you'd like to see happen, a way to connect with a different part of the market that you can't already? Yep. Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you. And sorry, panellists, I'll give it back.
Can I just add another comment to that? In as much as I feel that the skills and the experience that I've gained over the years, and one of the reasons why I'm here today is to update my knowledge in HR, because I'm now wanting to start up my own business. Because there's things I want to do and achieve. I'm not over it yet. I've just gone through the grandmotherly stage, so I'm ready to move on to another goal. Do I want to work in HR? Heaven knows, I don't know, but I've got lots of other ideas. And, you know, I will only admit to being over 50, but nevertheless, I think there are many, many people who would be an asset to many of the businesses that exist in the Redlands. I'd really like to see something come out of that. Thank you.
There you are, Louisa.
Yes. So I not only work with the Queensland Government, I work in the federal government as well, advising them of obviously on the back of evidence of what you actually are saying. And we are looking at a lot of pieces of how do we get career changes into different jobs, and that generally means mid-career changes onwards. So looking at that mature workforce and how do we, you know, get them to take their transferable skills, which you all have amazing transferable skills, into the skills that we need today. So that might be into more digital pathways, more, because obviously we all know generative AI is taking over a lot of jobs, so we have a lot of displacement coming through there. And so how do we manoeuvre the workforce over to other industries to make sure that we're not left with massive skill shortages in areas. So there is a lot of research happening around that. It is a big discussion within government, so it's not been, you know, well, we don't worry about those people that are close to retirement. We're actually very aware that people want to still work, they still want to be productive, and they want to do different things. You know, we all have like so many different careers. So there is work around there. I haven't got a solution right now for you, apart from the fact that we are looking at it from a national perspective and ways that we can engage to be able to manoeuvre workforces in that way, and also educate others to actually take on someone that is, like, I'm a mid-career person, I'm over 50, and you know, I think there'll come a time in my life that I might want to change what I'm doing too, but people might think I'm too old for that, and I want the stigma to change in that, because I think a lot of the barrier that we have is the others looking at us as being too old. So we're definitely looking at research and making sure that we can help in those ways.
Oh, can I just jump in for 2 seconds? So part of like what Louisa was saying is it's an education process. So the government...
Take too long.
No, but for employers.
Yeah.
So the government has the Back to Work team, they've worked on their micro-credentials, and one of those micro-credentials, I mean there's 16 of them, but is on mature age in the workforce. So it's already there, the framework, the knowledge, we're still researching on it, is to re-educate employers to start looking at that mentoring and the value add. But I also think, and I'm going to talk way out of school on a topic I used to know a lot about but I don't anymore, you know, superannuation needs to change too. because there's a lot of restrictions on how many hours can be worked and how that impacts, and then also what it affects as benefits for Medicare and everything else. Because I had this chat with a business probably 18 months ago. He had his dad helping out, and he couldn't do a whole heap of things because of all those other federal restrictions. So I do think it needs to be overhauled as well as the education process. Sorry, Susie.
You're right. Were you looking for, just so that I'm clear, because you want to start up your own business and you want to do mentoring, like help businesses? Because I heard you mention, were you talking more into helping businesses just through HR, or were you looking at doing help generally with all the knowledge that you have as well?
I'm an open book at the moment.
Okay.
I'm absolutely open to any opportunities. As I think a lot of people are.
Yep.
People who are older feel that applying for positions is futile.
Yep.
You're too old. What can you add to our business? So I'm an open book.
So one thing that I'd love to suggest to you, the government have a mentoring for growth program. So that's good for you to listen and good for you to contribute. You can apply to be a mentor. So they're business owners all around Queensland that apply for these roles and give businesses and other people all sorts of information on topics that's relevant to them. One thing, if you are going to do HR, are you going to need guidance to learn how to do different courses or use different software? Desbit and the government are really great resources, and we can get Kate's card to you and link you to those things so that you have those skills. And there's also the pop-up hubs locally as well that Desbit, the Chamber and City Council run together that has a whole realm of information. And it is probably what you were saying as well, Louisa, it is our job as business chambers and RJCs to educate, just like what Tom said about young people, the benefits. What is the benefits to you coming in? How are you going to sell yourself to that business when you're applying to it? Rather than just a piece of paper, you are a human being. What is it that you have to offer? And if you haven't figured that out, that is where those mentoring for growth sessions, they're free and it's available, and I'd love to link you to those resources if that's helpful.
Rightio, we've probably got time for one more question.
She's been waiting for a while.
Yeah. You've been dogged in. You will find escape is quite impossible.
Thank you. So it's about the right to disconnect, because so we teach kids or anyone fishing classes. So work hours, it's based around the tides. So we have no set hours at all. So I guess it's how to, what's that line of contacting people? Because especially we work with a lot of teenagers and they are not quick on handing in paperwork. Or we've got the rostering app, they do not respond. So we have to kind of, I feel like nagging, but it's contact them just to know if they are working their shifts. So it kind of just, what's that line of is it okay to contact them, and is there a how much or things like that?
Good question. Is it reasonable to control the weather?
The tides and the moon.
What I would suggest there is actually, I do understand that it can be extremely hard, especially with, I guess, a younger workforce that's not as used to doing those things like checking their rosters or checking their emails or something like that. But if that expectation has been set at the start and you are actually actively educating your employees on that, there should be no problem. What I would say though is that I do think that there's always that opportunity to have that conversation with someone and say, look, we're going to contact you at random hours because it is going to be dependent on the tide, and we obviously need to be able to contact you to ensure that, we can't control the weather. But if you ever believe that our contact is unreasonable, please bring that to our attention so we can address that and we can have a conversation about that, and then you can actively address that and look at their issues. And if they're saying, you just sent me 10 text messages in half an hour and I don't think that's reasonable, then you can look at how you're communicating better. And it might be that you do just send one text message that has a title in it that says, if you would like to work, or please reply if you would like to attend today's session, like that. And that's also giving them the choice to apply if they want to. But if it is dependent on how your business will work, I would set that expectation right from the start. have that open communication with them, but also tell them where to go if there's an issue.
Very good. Some very insightful questions, some equally insightful answers. Can I get a round of applause for all our panellists, please?